As you know, the world has changed. The world thinks exponential. We think 10x. We don't think in increments of 10% improvement, 20% improvement. Those times are past. The interesting thing is that with this slide explains actually quite a lot. It's the exponential thinking. What we did not think about is that all these new technologies that are coming out there, if you combine them, then you have ultra exponential developments, which is really interesting. Today we're going to talk about one of these technologies, blockchain, and how we're going to implement it. So just 2 words on me. I'm the director of Dtec. I have about 25 years of leadership track record with multinationals and startups. I've also started up startups, as a matter of fact, on 3 continents. So I have walked the walk, or walked the talk. And I'm also very much a speaker on blockchain, AI, entrepreneurship, and innovation. We have about 800 tech startups in this center. So we are by far the largest tech center in the entire MENA region because we are a pure tech center, which is really awesome. And we have gone to this stage in just 3 years. We are building across the street something called Silicon Park. It's the first true smart city in Dubai. It's one of the first true smart cities in the world, I'm happy to say, because it's really been built from scratch. There's going to be 60 smart applications running on about 28 systems. Smart city as well, it has become a vertical in itself. It's a strategy in itself, because smart also could lead to happiness. Fostering entrepreneurship could lead to happiness. Desired society can lead to happiness. And if you hit the goal, or if you're hitting for the goal of happiness, I think that's pretty awesome. It's also UAE is also or Dubai is the country with a happiness minister.
Blockchain is a very, I mean, a lot of techies here, so you're in a comfort zone. But you start talking to a non-technical person about blockchain, their eyes just roll over. It actually is very difficult, and they just think it's a black art, and we have no idea what's going on. I think there's a lot of jargon there, which Hans spoke about, and I think we need to demystify it and simplify it and just make it much, much more human, how it relates to us. We have Farhan Shahzad here from IBM, and he's one of their solution architects, one of their cognitive solution architects, and he's going to take us into a little journey from the enterprise to the ecosystem and then to economies. So hang on to your seats, guys, because I'm sure he's going to tell us lots and lots of fun things. Over to you, Farhan.
So I guess from a blockchain perspective, most of you guys knows about through Bitcoin or Ethereum and how this actually work on the public space, where anyone can join and can have their node. Today I will be talking more from an enterprise perspective, so what it means for enterprises when they actually go into the blockchain. I've been working with the Dubai Smart Government since last 1.5 years. So we started our journey with the Smart Dubai and have done a couple of ideas and projects and use cases and working outside as well. So from an enterprise perspective, the way we looked at it, that we understand that that's a distributed ledger technology. But from an enterprise, the way we look at it, that how you can innovate and streamline those business processes that they have today, especially when it applies to outside their organization. How you can create new business models and revenue streams. So that is the fundamental aspect of blockchain, that how you can expand your ecosystem, how you can apply this technology to integrate with your partner ecosystem to create new revenues. And most importantly, it applies across your business network. So it doesn't apply inside organization. There will be less use cases, but more use cases. When we go to blockchain, it actually tends to exist outside. The problem that we try to solve is actually outside. So from an enterprise perspective, security, privacy becomes more important as compared to if you go into the public space or B2C space. We embark on blockchain solution. It's not one company that you actually work with. You have to work with the entire ecosystem. It can be bigger ecosystem like 100 companies, or it could be 10 companies, or it could be 5, it could be 3, depending on what kind of problem you are solving, right? So it's a more complex solutions and more complex problem that you are trying to solve as compared to if you are trying to create a solution or software for one entity. right? You have to integrate with their system. So you are not just creating a node and writing a smart contract. You need to think about it, what systems you have to integrate with them. What are the user interfaces that will be required in order to implement that solution? Does it need to integrate with their CRM, or do we need to develop an extra mobile application? So from a solution perspective, it is very important that they have to look at the entire ecosystem, so what it needs.
My name is Jan Grabski. I am the Director of Enterprise Scaling at Consensus, which means that I work with blockchains and trying to make them fit into enterprises and trying to make the solutions scale into enterprise level quality. Last year, blockchain became a big topic. And the reason it became a big topic is because of an explosion, a Cambrian explosion of projects that happened in the crypto asset space. And everybody sat up 100 times gains on just an average crypto asset. What happened is about $6 billion, before 2017, about $1 billion was invested into crypto assets and blockchain projects. In 2017 alone, it was over $6 billion. So it was a huge explosion in terms of money invested and interest and the number of projects. And this graph here just shows the number of projects by geographic location in the world. A lot, okay? This is well over 1,000. In a way that looks like a big bang. And what we do is we are astronauts in this universe just after the Big Bang. Bitcoin happened first. And then last year we had the inflation period where a lot of projects just came into existence. We don't know which of them are great. Three things came together. First, cryptography is used to sign the transactions so that participants in the network can post transactions to the ledger, cryptographically sign the transaction that they're posting, so that others can validate that the owner of the sending account is indeed the person that posted the transaction. The next innovation is that we can publicly validate these transactions, so we can verify that the signature matches the sender's account number, and we have a history of all the transactions, so we can check if this particular transaction matches our validation rules. The last thing is that this list of transactions, which is an order, the order is important, it is sealed with energy. Okay, so blockchains, at least the ones that we know to work really well, are secured with something called proof of work. And essentially what that means is that there's in computer science and in mathematics really, coming up with certain results is mathematically provably difficult. So difficult, in fact, and it's measurably difficult. So if we provide a certain solution to a problem, we can say that that took a certain amount of energy to solve. So the blockchain is sealed with energy, so to speak.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Stuart Davis, and I head the technology, media, and telecommunications team at Altamimi. Altamimi, if you aren't aware, is the largest law firm in the Middle East, in the region. We've got 17 offices in 9 countries. We've got 3 in the UAE, 3 in Saudi, and a smashing of others around the region in the places you would expect. We've got about 600 lawyers. We're an end-to-end law firm. My background's I trained in the City of London many years ago, but have been in the region for the last 10 years. Worked in telecommunications, media, and tech, unsurprisingly, from where I am now. My interest in blockchain came about around about a year ago, which interesting to see the slide on the Big Bang Theory, which essentially when it all took off and I saw the multiple gains that were going to that were taking place with Bitcoin and others. Funnily enough, there's a lot of interest from clients coming through. The crux I was getting to is smart contracts, which I think is a very confusing term, because smart contracts isn't just what you consider it to be on the blockchain, which is almost like a passage of goods, like a motorway, which is an end-to-end service. It's not not necessarily a legally binding contract. It doesn't necessarily have offer, acceptance, consideration, certainty. I think it's misleading from a lawyer's point of view, because legal contracts and legal systems goes back thousands of years, takes into account politics, culture, political developments, etc. The codification of law, I think, is misleading, and that's probably a subject in itself.
So my name is Rahul Pai. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of UA Exchange Group. UA Exchange is part of a group, a financial services group, which is into 45 markets across the world. So we move close to $30 billion of money from one country to another, including from UAE, which makes us the second largest money transfer in the world. And why I'm stressing this is because this is where one of the most important, as far as we are concerned, the use cases of blockchain lies. So this movement of $30 billion of money. Apart from this, we also have 3 other business verticals that we do. We are also a market leader in foreign currency exchange, that is buying and selling of foreign currency, primarily catering to a traveling community. And we do that not only from the UA Exchange brand, but also through a brand called as Travelex. Now, coming specifically to blockchain, if you look at all the services that I have just mentioned and on what we're doing, we quickly realize that with all the kind of things that are coming out in the market, blockchain is that technology that can very easily kind of disrupt the kind of business model that we are doing. So we had 2 choices in front of us: either embrace the technology and be a part of it, or just be a sitting duck, wait for somebody else to come and disrupt us. So we chose the first one. We thought, okay, let's start trying to figure out what this technology is all about. We've taken 3 routes to try and get to the bottom of what blockchain is all about and be ready for the wave. Because why I say be ready for the wave is because we are a regulated business, and all these things that we currently do are regulated. So we would not perhaps enter into anything which today the regulation says is perhaps a gray area. So obviously the cryptocurrencies is something that the regulators are not comfortable with yet. So our kind of research or adventures on blockchain are restricted to the non-financial side of it.
We actually run a little workshop in my company, and it's called that how to destroy your own company before somebody else comes and destroys it for you. So we actually need to be able to have the courage to attack ourselves first, because somebody is out there ready, waiting, and willing to come and attack you. So it's wonderful to hear that companies like UA Exchange have the foresight to be able to say, okay, we are going to be attacked, let's attack ourselves and let's reinvent ourselves before somebody comes in and completely marginalizes us.
My name is Ali Zain. I'm the co-founder CEO of Idea to Life, a creative problem-solving software development company. We've been in business for the past 4 years. We're specialized in artificial intelligence, blockchain, and design thinking. My interest in blockchain is definitely due to my interest in innovation and in disruption, and that's at least the disruption side, and that's what blockchain provide. On our projects, we're doing a couple of projects. We help companies build human-centric solutions and disrupt their internal processes. So the way we're different is that we don't ask our clients to come to us with the scope of work or with the definition of what they want. All we ask is to come to us with a problem, and with them, with the workshops we do internally, we help them define the right solution for the right problem in a human-centric approach. That's our key.
I think we need lawyers and we need regulators to be involved with us while we work on on this very interesting and new technology. But then you say that smart contracts aren't legally binding. And this is kind of provocative for me, because smart contracts are a technical thing. They are a program. You interact with them and they are well defined. And once you interact with them, you get the output depending on how the smart contract is designed. Or maybe someone might argue how the contract should behave. But then you say that they're not legally binding, which means that if someone interacts with a contract that I made for everyone, and then they say after they realize that they got in trouble, hey, I don't want to do this, they can, for example, sue me and get the money they put into the contract, right? So I think this is unfair, maybe, but at least it makes it harder for us like software development companies to build contracts, because we need to account for that situation that you mentioned.
Yeah, I think the confusion in my reading with smart contracts, and I'm not a coder, and I think the future of law and lawyers in contract does have to be a combination of coding and knowledge of fundamental legal issues. To throw a question back at you, the problem with a contract is not in its drafting, it's when there's a dispute between the two or more parties.
Smart contracts are intuitively understood by us as legally binding contracts that reside in a legal jurisdiction or pieces of paper of terms and conditions. And in a way they are. However, smart contracts are first and foremost computer programs. And because they run on a blockchain, and this blockchain has its own heartbeat that no one can stop. For now, we're pretty confident that they're unhackable. If they are hackable, we don't know what we're doing with blockchains. But if you run a smart contract, basically you cannot stop it. There's nobody in the world that can stop this contract from executing.
Considering the use case or the problem that you are trying to solve, sometimes it becomes legally attached as well. And that's where the government are working. And I'll give you an example. We are working on first of the use case, which is about digitizing the tenancy contract, right? And one of the aspect of it, it's to, I want to give a digital check or a smart check that needs to be digitally signed, but there is no legal backing behind that, right? If some dispute is there, the court law says that if it's a physical check, then only we consider, otherwise we will not consider it. Now there is a regulatory issue that is there in order to solve that problem, that electronic signatures are as good as physical signatures. If you have that legislation, then you can solve this problem through blockchain by having those digital signatures in place. So sometimes, based on the use case, it has a legal impact as well.
What are all the industries where we have got some sort of opportunities to go with the blockchain? That means I'm running a startup here. What are all the areas I can find out some sort of business to do with the blockchain?
Ultimately, 99.99 or 100% of our revenue comes from a regulated business. So there is a thin line of difference as far as a financial player is concerned. We don't want to be known for supporting Bitcoin. Unfortunately, in today's world, Bitcoin there is a thin line of difference between Bitcoin and blockchain. Even if I talk to a common man, I'm not talking to a person who knows in and out of blockchain. And so let's say a technology enthusiast or a blockchain enthusiast knows what's the difference between blockchain and Bitcoin. But to a person who has heard about blockchain, they've heard it through Bitcoin. They know that Bitcoin works on a blockchain technology. So
don't pick the most difficult industry, which is the fintech, and it has a lot of legislation, it has a lot of challenges to tackle. Let the big guys do it. Let them get the infrastructure ready. Focus on the bigger value, where you can bring value using blockchain. Think about the music industry. Today, blockchain at the end is the internet of value. And anything that transmits value or way of sharing value over the internet can be decentralized and can be built on top of blockchains. Think about music. Today, if you go to the music industry, you can make the life of musicians way easier by removing the middlemen, and thus you will get a higher adoption rate on the technology versus getting all the challenges in your way. Another example is IoT security. And maybe we'll talk more in details around that, but that's a very big pain today. And building this layer of security or this telemetric kind of mesh networks using blockchain technology, I think you will get a higher adoption rate and more early adopters and more support from everyone versus going into the fintech and the challenging industries.